Hello, and welcome along to this stream tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. Apologies for a slight delay in getting started. Tonight, as I'm sure you're all aware, is Halloween night. So there was some little people out and about doing Halloween-related trick-or-treating, so didn't quite get chance to finish up properly or in time in order to get started. But here now, so hopefully you are all doing well. Like I say, the plan or the rough plan for tonight will be pretty much to continue off where we left last week, which was getting a slightly better output on the cake output when you have a skip task. So what I mean by that is probably best shown by example. So I close this and run this. So this is the code where we left it off last week, and I've got it set up with a small cake script that has one skip task in it. And what the end result of that build is the standard summary output, but in addition, there's a new column now when there is a skip task, and that brings down the information about the criteria that resulted in that task being skipped. So what that looks like is filing. We'll let it run. I can't remember if I've got any breakpoints in the code. So we might step into some code in a second, or it might just jump straight to the output. We'll look. It goes straight to the output. So what we've got now is this new column over here, the skip reason column, and that's formatted using Spectre.Console. Now, the original thought process last week, or at least in my head, the original thought process was that we were only going to introduce Spectre.Console where it was needed. So it was needed here because we wanted this additional column, and although we could have done that using kind of standard console outputting where you kind of figure out exactly how many characters there are available, split into certain sections, etc. That's really what Spectre.Console does. So why do anything other, right? So let me go back to here and I'll open up code to my where I've got the, I think it's that build.cake. Let me just open up the build.cake file that we were working with. I want to make sure that it's still working, or to show it working when there's not a skip task in play. So if we open up the build.cake and we take out the skip task, which is that one, and let's go back to here and close this window out and then run that again, because what we should get is that it no longer has that third column. So if that's still working, that was me at a point that I was feature complete. I was ready to submit a PR into the cake repository, hopefully have it reviewed, etc. But then Matthias, or dev lead on Twitter and everywhere else that I'm aware of where he is, suggested that we could also use Spectre.Console and a couple of other places. So the suggestion really is to replace it in its entirety, and make it an opt-in feature at the minute, to then have folks allow it to switch it on and off when they want it, and then at some point in the future default to using the Spectre.Console library. I'm just logging in. I'm not seeing any chat messages coming through, so I'm just worried that it's not working, but perhaps folks just aren't in a chatty mood tonight, but that's fine. I can sit here and talk as I work through some things. Stevie, because we aren't talking yet. Well, there you go. So the intention tonight is to look at. So it is working, Matthias. Yes, but you've also told me I need to do more work. So I'm thinking about looking to see where other iConsole instances are used and expand it out, because you suggested, so if we go and open up Google Chrome and we look at the Spectre.Console documentation again, so one of the other widgets that's available is the panel widget. And the suggestion here, I think, from yourself was that we would use a panel to replace the output when we have a, it's hard to show here now, but if we just do .NET cake, so that we have it side by side, so we do C temp build.cake. The suggestion was that we use a panel widget for the individual sections where we have the task name being displayed. So that's obviously best illustrated via an example as well. So this section here, rather than what we have just now, which is these lines and default, this would be a styled panel object. So again, to replace the standard iConsole output usage that we've got here. So Matthias has put this idea into my head. So I'm going to go and take a look to see where all instances of the current iConsole are used, to then see how difficult, how involved replacing it would be. Because description, script host, tree, script host, there's quite a lot of iConsole instances. So that was the one that we created. This one here was the implementation that we created of iConsole, and that's what gets replaced. So what we would... No, hold on. Nothing worth doing is ever easy, Garrick, just do it. Well, could replace the report printer. Well, that's effectively what we've done. So the cake report printer has already been replaced. But what I think there's more to it. So the way the work that we did last week was specifically around the summary, and the summary seemed to be specifically this report printer instance. Patrick was on the stream last week as well, so he was helping me through some of the stuff that we were talking about here. But what I'm curious about is where all of those equals are coming from. So the default execution strategy currently does this, and this is done using the log instance, and the log instance is an instance of the iCake log. Okay, so don't need cake Spectre. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, and the beginning being what we did last week. So last week we introduced a cake Spectre console. So, and then that was then passed in to the no, was it? No, I don't think it was. No, we started off doing that, so I don't think that was used anywhere. So maybe I misspoke there. So let's just make sure that that was the case. So cake Spectre console. Right, yes. So that was never used. Apologies if you hear my doorbell ringing. Actually, I'm going to go and switch that off because we've still got trick-or-treaters coming round. Give me 1 sec. I will just go and switch off the doorbell. Yes, you are right, Patrick. So last week we had created a Cake Spectre.Console instance, and the thought process was that we were going to need it. But you're right, it's not actually used anywhere. So let's remove that dude. Or it's not referenced anywhere directly. And let's just sanity check that. And we'll go back to my build script and I'll put my skip task back in again. I would create a new interface and use that in the execution strategy. Use the current -- panels there and inject a new panel in cake.cli. Okay. I think you're a little bit ahead of me in terms of how this is going to work, but I am willing to look into it and push some buttons. But let me just make sure that all this is still functioning the way I want it to. Build is taking much longer than I would have liked, but we'll get there in the end. What is up with... Finally finished. Okay, good. Let's run this again. We run this. So this was one of 3 things that I'm hoping to sneak into the next release, Matthias, for when PRs come round. I don't know when you're planning to do the next release, but there was this and 2 other things that I was hoping to sneak into the milestone. I have a partial PR of at least one of those things. So that's still working, so that's good. Okay, so if you look at the -- parts, they're very duplicated and can be a common method that could be its own interface. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Think. So going back to what we had last week, we created a Cake Spectre.Console printer that took as its input, rather than iConsole, it took the iANSI console. And the way that we did that in the configuration container configurator is we had an if button maybe that basically said, if we are in a position where we are going to show the skipped reason, we will register the Cake Spectre.Console printer as an instance of the iCake report printer. So that's how we were able to switch between the existing output and the new way of doing it. Now, we were doing that contingent on this new feature that we created, which was the setting that was show, skip, reason, and task summary. Now, what I think I heard, based on some of the feedback, was that we would have 2 features. One feature, which is just, well, let's just use Spectre.Console for this output and rendering of the different elements. And then another feature, which is whether you want to see the skip, reason, and the summary. That could instead just use Spectre.Console config and register more stuff. I don't understand what that means, Matthias. What does that could instead be just be a use Spectre.Console? Oh, I think yes. Okay. I've reread that. Yes. So we will have 2 features. One which is use Spectre.Console, and the other is the show, skipped, reason, and task summary. Now, if you do the first one, we'll endeavor to use Spectre.Console everywhere. And this one that I'm showing on screen just now, what will be show the skip, reason, and the task summary in addition to using Spectre.Console. And Patrick's saying constants settings.use Spectre.Console. Exactly that. Yes, that's the exact same thing I had in my head. Yes. Okay, so we're on the same page then. So if I go back to my find, was here. So what Matthias is saying is that we would look at this part and we would bring out this section as, or perhaps this section as a method and that method will use something that we pass in, which is, let's see if Mateus gave that a name. That could be in its own interface. So we didn't have a name for it, but it would have a method that could have an implementation for both normal console output and one that is the Spectre.Console output. So I think I follow that now that I've seen where his thought process is going. So up here, what do we currently have? We have a default execution strategy, and how much or how many things are going on in here. There's lots of stuff going on in here. So we would want to, I think, pass in something on top of or into this one, and that would be a, naming is hard. This would be a cake. The only thing that's coming to mind is panel printer, but I'm not sure if that's right. Is there anything else that we would want to also print out? Try to think what the setup looks like. So if we add in some additional stuff to here, let's add in an example that I can just pull in. Here. Let's go here then. And what? Up. Here. This one. This. What we're saying here. For just now, just use new interface instead of iCake log. Okay, that's okay. Let me get to a point where what I wanted. So let's do this. Not task. Take this out. Do then here is setup. Let's do the tear down. Here is tear down. And then let's go with task setup and the task tear down. Let's just see what that looks like so that we have a example. Add that func to report printer and rename report printer to something like cake output shenanigans. Love it. Clearly the top one there. Again. So In the setup, we have a slightly different output. The task is reported with double equals, and then the teardown is single as well. So there's a slightly different variation there. So where does that happen? Look for lots of single ones. That happened in the there we go. So that's in the default execution strategy as well. So it's in the same area. Okay, so let me catch up on questions. Report step string name string message equals null. What was that in relation to? Did I miss something? Was that when I was putting this in? Name equals task name. I'm not sure what that's referring to. So Patrick's saying that the report step method should be added to the report printer. So what I'm hearing then, so these blocks you're referring to here, what you're saying is that the task name, setup, and start. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay, right. So if we go back to where we were playing last time, or what I'm hearing is input name and message. Message is skipped. Message or task name. Input and message. Message is skipped. Message or task name. Oh, okay. I think so. But name could also be setup, teardown, otherwise very similar. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes, but I think so. I see. So what Stevie said. Yes, I understand what is being said there. So currently we have a so the report. I sort of like what Patrick was suggesting, which was an additional method on the cake report printer to do stuff. My question there, though, is we can't replace the iCake log because the log is doing other stuff. So if we were to look for all instances here, I'm sure that the log is being used in multiple places out with the actual panel section. So I don't think we replace the cake log instance, but I think we continue with the iCake report printer. Call that report printer. So I'm going to stub this out and then feel free to jump in and correct me. So this is going to be private read-only iCake report printer. That's going to be report printer. Like printer 1, but so report printer. And then this is going to be report printer and the report printer. Beautiful. So I'm going to suggest that we have a new method on here on the iCake report printer that is a new one called void write. Oh, let's stick with what was there. Report step, which is going to take string name and string message just now. Report lifecycle step. If we want output. Okay, report step, write step. Okay, write step. But then but do we want to? So we've got write step, and then Matthias is suggesting write lifecycle step. So again, let's just say string and message just now, and come back to that. Okay, so if we do that, that will need some implementation, and it will start off in the Spectre.Console one. Okay, so in here, let's get rid of some of this stuff, and we will in here, and we'll say, please go ahead and sub that out for me. Patience here, implement space. I did click it. It's thinking. I don't know if that's coming through in stream, but there is a little spinny thing here, and I don't understand why it's spinning. It would almost be quicker to type it out at this point. So let's just do public void write step string names message. Copy that a second and put there. Right, life cycle step. Okay, so down here in the default execution strategy, we have this one. So this is a write life cycle step. So this is going to be replaced with port printer dot write lifecycle step, whose name is going to be setup. And I'm on the wrong keyboard, so that has been replaced with that. I may refactor this, but let's just keep it happy just now. Okay. And then there was at least one other instance of the equals. It was in here. So this is the task at this point. So that's the one that we were writing a step. So this one here is going to be task.name. So this is going to be report printer dot write step, and that was going to be task.name. And at the minute, feeling like we don't need that second parameter at the minute, but let's just keep it in there just now. As not a C# developer, my brain is mush about what you just did. Why define those things as void in the interface and basically duplicate the work as a method? That's a great question, Stevie. So what I did over here, so this is my public interface. So this is my contract of everything that I want the iCake reporter printer interface defines everything that I want to be available on any instance of that interface. So anything that implements that contract. So currently this report printer, this thing that I've called this report printer, has got 3 methods. It's got write, it's got write lifecycle step, and it's got write step. So the idea there is we define the makeup, the shape of what that class is. So that's why they're just void here, but there's no actual implementation of them. All we're saying here is that there will be a method called write, and that write method takes one input parameter that is the report. And there's going to be this method called write step that takes, at the minute, it takes a string name and a string message as the input parameters. Now, what I've got is I've got 2 implementations of the iCake report printer. So I've got the original Cake report printer that does the way that Cake outputs stuff today, and that one, that we're not going to change that. That's going to stay over there. That we're not going to touch that. It's going to continue to do everything that it did before. But I've created a new instance of the Cake Spectre report printer that is also an implementation of the iCake report printer, and that's where I create the implementations of the methods. Right? So what that means is that depending on a feature flag, someone can say, I want to use the old way of doing it. So in our IOC container, we will have the original implementation registered. But if someone comes along and says, I want to use the Spectre.Console version of the report printer, then we'll grab that one from the IOC container. So it allows us to chop and change things based on the user preference. But what we code against is the original interface. So over here again, this is the contract, this is my interface, and that's what I put into where it's actually used. So over here, this is the actual implementation of the execution strategy that Cake uses. And what I've said at the top here, up here, is I want to pass in an instance of the iCake report printer. Now, I don't know which one it is. So this code here, this default execution strategy, it doesn't know or care whether it's the original implementation or whether it's the Spectre.Console implementation of the report printer. All it knows is that it has these 3 methods available on it: the write lifecycle execution step, and the write step. So it doesn't care. But at runtime, we can say, well, I want to pass in the original report printer, or at runtime I want to pass in the Spectre.Console one. But again, this code here, it doesn't care. So it allows us to move things around. So there's a lot of IOC registrations happening within Cake. There's ways of overriding that via what we call a module subsystem. So there's lots of things to do in there. Hopefully that makes sense. And just to help out with that, or to make things worse, is that Matthias has said in the comments there that now that we're in .NET 6 and .NET 7, we can have a default implementation in the interface. Now, what that's referring to is that over here in the interface definition, the contract, you can actually put a default implementation for each method. Now, that's brand new. That's a completely foreign, as an old C# developer, that is a foreign concept to me yet. I haven't quite grokked where and when I would want to do that. But Matthias is right. In the newer C# constructs, you can have a default implementation in your interface definition. But in the setup that we have here, we still have specific implementations, both in the original Cake report printer and the new Spectre.Console based one. Would a VB-based hey, fool Snable, would a Visual Basic based Cake be called Vake or Bake? Matthias, obviously Shake and Bake. The Atari STE build system would be called STE Ake. Stevie, not a problem. Good. No more sidetracking. Sidetracking is fun. Don't worry about that. We can have multiple implementations in C# now, multiple inheritance even. So again, old C# developer here, sort of stuck in my ways. I still like string.format. That's all I'm saying. String interpolation's great, but There can't be a good old string dot format. We also need to know the log level to keep verbose information thingy. I think I'm not keeping up with what you're tracking there, but we'll come back to that. This is again just stubbing things out. I think I saw a comment from Patrick earlier about taking the empty along with us. So let's do that then. So the suggestion there would be that we take, yeah, I guess so. So let's take that out and go into our implementation thing. So that will take us to anywhere. Probably because it's not been built yet. But let's go up to here. Oh, we haven't done anything yet. Okay, so we need to put this in here. And in here, we're going to make use of the console. So this is the underscore console dot. Now that won't have an information on it. So what that just, oh, so this is what Matthias is talking about with regard to, this is what Matthias is referring to with regard to the information level, I think. Because at this point, we don't have any concept in here of the log level. But he's also gone further and suggesting that we take everything that outputs stuff. But Patrick's saying except the executing log messages and similar. This one here. Yes. But how do we, what do we do here in terms of log level for this section? I'm a little bit, we go back to the changes that we've got. Previously, it was doing, and it's doing information for all of those. Information basically meaning it would always be shown. So do we just write? iCake log level should here. That would be on log. Sets the log level to diagnostic. No, it doesn't. The verbosity gets or sets the verbosity. Okay. And then based on that, we would, so we pass that into the, but then are we not re-implementing, would we not need to re-implement the, we not need to re-implement those log levels in the Cake Spectre.Console printer? Hey Corey. Corey didn't get a notification about the stream starting, that's fine. I think the steps are always printed as information. The only things that are verbose are the log levels part of the execution strategy, which does not belong in the report printer. So again, would that mean just calling report printer dot, would that be just console dot write then? So again, within the implementation, that would just be console.write. Well, no, it would be, we need a panel. We need to do, so it's not that. let's go back over here. So our panel is var new panel hello world. So let's copy that just now, and then in here we're going to say var new panel panel, and that's going to be name at the minute. And then I'm assuming we're going to render that at some point, similar to what we did before. Yes, but less than info equals return output nothing. I am rage. This goes against the Twitch spirit. So I'm going to come back to, is there a panel.render in the same way that there was a table.render? Or how do I actually render or output the panel? Is it enough to just, I'm assuming that I would need to pass that to my console instance. Yeah, so console.write panel. Okay, perfect. But so Matthias, though, if less verbosity than info, there's no panel output. But does that even make sense? I mean, take always outputs this output. Why would I not want to know what task is currently being executed? That, I mean, if let's test that out. So I can say verbosity. I can't even read that off the screen. Verbosity equals, I don't even know what the cake verbosity levels are, but let's find out. Verbosity cake verbosity. Nope. Diagnostic verbosity. So there's quiet, minimal, normal, verbose, or diagnostic. So we do quiet. I'm expecting to still see oh, look at that. I don't think I expected that. I've also never tried it though. So yeah, I don't know. But I also feel we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So let me take a step back because I want to prove out that it functionally works. And then we can go the next step, which is either outputting a panel or not based on the verbosity. But I've genuinely never tried quiet there. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. Okay. Where did I get to? That was up here in my Cake Spectre report printer. Patrick said it was console.write. And then I pass in my panel. Okay. And then I would also do console.write line. And then it was essentially at that point string.empty. Let's just write a line. Let's write an empty line. Okay. Let's take that part out. Okay. So we'll change up the styling of the panels. But for now, the implementation here of the write step and the write life cycle is going to be the same, but we'll change the styling of the panels to match, or to make a distinction between the two. If I try building that, that's going to fall down, and it's going to fall down because we don't have the implementation in the other cake report printer. But we also need to go into here and find any other instances of equals, which is this one. That's on the skip. So the skip would be, that's my missing implementations. So in here, this is going to be my report printer dot, that's a life cycle event, and that's going to be, no, that's a step. Right, step, and that's going to be task.name. Now that is verbose. So that one, so if it's skipped, it is written at a different log level. So we'll have to remember that. So for now, let's put that in as the message. We'll cheat a little bit. So that one was verbose. So it would only show in the output if verbose logging is on. Fine. What are you complaining about? You're complaining about some extra space. Okay, so there's no more instances of that. We go back to default execution strategy. Let's do what I was doing before, and let's refresh that. So this one where we did the setup on line 35. Have it. Up here on line 35, this was information. Fine. And then this one was information as well. Seven. This one here was information. That one was verbose. We already had that one as verbose. That one. Save that. Push this time. This was information. That was information. And that was verbose. Okay, cool. So we've captured that. So we haven't lost anything there. And if we do the other one, which is an information, so this becomes report printer dot write life cycle step, and that is going to be tear down. That is going to be information. Fine. Take that part out. Or, okay, no, that's all. Okay, so that's that part. Down here, we need a similar implementation to things. So let's borrow both of these, them into there, back over to here, and we borrow what we've just taken out. So the setup, this one, this is where we find out we don't have a log instance over here. But let's, or do we? Yeah, we don't have one, but we can pass one in. We have a, no, I've just done that in the wrong place, haven't I? Did. That was this one. Try that again. So this one, that one. Still don't have a log. And at this point, I have a console, so we'll have to do the same thing there. So let's just do a console dot have here. Oh, why won't it show me when I'm in that mode? So console dot, it's going to be very similar actually. Console dot write line, and then console dot write line. This, that needs to close, and then that's not set up anymore. That is the name. Okay, gone all quiet on the chat, so I'm either doing something completely wrong or it's all right and no one's got anything to say. So I'm okay with both of those, to be honest. But I'm going to keep going in the hope that I've at least got something right. Copy this, and I'm going to copy this here. This name at this point. Yeah, so I think, like I say, there'll be, in terms of the implementation of the panel, yes, there'll be a distinction here between a step and a write lifecycle step. I need to go back to the documentation to decide which one of those is which. Okay, so I noticed something on the default execution strategy where I think I've missed bringing something over. So that was on line 6. So I think we can look at this right line here. Okay. Possibly. There wasn't one at the minute, so I would either need to pass it in. But again, working process. Take report printer does not implement. How does it not? Take report printer, write lifecycle step, and write step. Write lifecycle step and write step. What did I break? String message void. Public void. I'm going to build that again in the hope that it doesn't just work. Does not implement interface string of string. It does though. Or what, have I made a spelling mistake? Write life cycle step. Write life. Oh, I see the problem now. I saw it eventually. I did have a typo. Okay. Yeah, so I think, so like I said, I've kind of left it open, but it feels as though this second parameter becomes a something based on the verbosity passed in from the default execution strategy. But for now, I think I want to get this to build and test it out. And we need a new setting, and that setting is whether or not we register which one we register. Now, it will be there because of the virtue of us asking for the summary and the output. So my question to a Spectre person in the audience is what settings or what appearance do I want to set on the panel, and how do I do that? So hold on. I need fake here. What do we do? Create a matter too much. Public. I take port printer. Port printer. Set. Down here we will say where did we put that just before text? Let's ordering the same. Can't really do pass it in there. No, let's just put it in here. Report printer equals substitute dot for I report printer, and then we're going to pass that dude in. Work. Let's try it anyway. Okay. So if we run that now, what happens? I'm hoping that it just works, but it's going to look a good bit different to what it currently looks like. Okay, so we bring this over and we look at this and do a side-by-side comparison. Then what we had over here was teardown ... default with lots of stuff in it. Why are we seeing? Oh, hold on. What is the parameters that I put? I'm calling it with dash verbosity equals diagnostic. Am I? Okay, that's fine. So that explains why I'm seeing some additional information there. That's fine. Okay. So the next question is, we could use a border that looks a bit what we have just now. Yes, absolutely. So I am open to suggestions, Patrick, in terms of what Spectre.Console can do for us. So if I go back to the documentation, then there is a border who is either ASCII, square, round, heavy, double, or none. Is there anywhere that I can see examples of said borders? And then Matthias is asking whether it is possible to set the panel width, and you're saying yes. So panel.expand. Enabling the expand property will cause the panel to be as wide as the console. Okay, so I think we want that. So I'm going to say that panel.expand equals true. So where did my Spectre.Console? So over here, I'm going to say panel.expand equals true. And I'm going to put that down there too. Ooh, thank you for that link. I can't get here. I can't use the link directly, but ooh, there we go. Okay. So are we thinking heavy for the single dot before and double for the other one? Or what are we thinking? Could set a width otherwise, such as dot width 25, okay? Or we could create our own border. Okay? That might be a homework exercise for extra credit. But how would we do that, and what would we want that to look like? Matthias is suggesting square and double. Let's put that out just now. And Matthias seems to want me to do it as a expand equals true, so let's just keep him happy. Again, old .NET developer here, sort of stuck in my ways. What can I say? And equals, that's tree. Nope, not tree. True. So then it was panel.border.stuff. So let's keep it in. Let's tune it up here. So border equals. So this is the right step. So this is the double then at that point, correct? So this would be border equals box border dot double. And this one would be border equals box border dot square. Okay. Run that and see what that looks like. So that was what I was wondering whether would be possible in the example that Patrick's maybe a way to put forward for us. So yes, if it's possible to do that, then yes, or we fall back to a table like what we've already got. But that's not too far away from what we had before. So again, side-by-side comparison. It's in different consoles, so it's rendering differently, obviously. But the teardown is there. The default is there. The skipped. So this is one of the ones that need to come out because that shouldn't be there unless it's verbosity equals whatever. It's coming together. I like it. I think. Okay. So next up, I need to do stuff. And that stuff is, what do we do with the early returns here? So I think it feels like what I want to pass into here is the verbosity. So let's maybe refactor this a little bit. So what we found was that the log dot verbosity, which is a instance of just verbosity, I feel like we want to pass that in. So if we go back to our interface and we change away from this message, and in here we're going to put verbosity. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to stick it in here, right? And then within here we're going to say, that's all. Now I'm going to put that into there, put that in there. So we're going to say if verbosity equals verbosity dot quiet, then we just silently turn. That is the suggestion that Matthias was making earlier. Oh, you want to do it that way. Okay, if verbosity is less than... Okay, that's probably, yeah, a better way. So is that normal then? Because there is no information level on here. Check cake log implementation. Find that. That's over here. That's here. That's there. Here. The cake build log is here. There. There. See? There's an information on the log level, but the verbosity object is... Am I getting in my head? I think I'm getting confused between log level and verbosity, but the iCake log only has a verbosity, it doesn't have a log level. Information is an extension method, or their extension methods. On the verbosity, go here. Are you sure? On the log. Log extension. Okay, fine. Error. Error. Warning. Information. So information is that one. Information. Find them all. And then we are writing at or look at the information normal. Where did you see information equals normal? Oh, here. No. Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So that one is then passing in. Okay. So that answers that question. So what I had then was right. So if we run this again then with verbosity equals quiet, we should just get the summary. Oh, no, that won't work because I haven't put the verbosity other in. So lost my printer, which is here. Let's this again. And here. That. Then there. That. There. Do something very similar. feels a little bit like duplication, but we'll roll with it just now. Ooh. Patrick, can you send me that in Slack? Because I can't get that link. I don't really want to type it out. It's still failing the build. Why is the build still? Argument. Oh, of course. So this wanted to be the log dot verbosity. There. No, that's not what we want to do. That's exactly what we don't want to do. We want to do verbosity dot. This was information, wasn't it? That was information. It was. Okay, so this is verbosity dot information, but we've just said that that's normal. Fine. Think. And then this one was the same. Verbosity dot normal. And then this one was the same. Verbosity dot. No, this is not right. I don't think this is what I want to do. This feels wrong. Or is it? I don't know. No, this is right. No, it can't be right. No, it can't be right. What does just inject iCake log into and you have the verbosity? No need to pass it. I don't understand what you mean there. I'm getting myself confused here, and I don't like it. But I'm fairly sure that's not what I want to do. Put that back just now so I haven't lost the information. And then I'm going to mull it over. Because what we were doing before is we were writing a specific, we were doing underscore log dot information something. But then based on the current verbosity that's set, then that would either get written or it wouldn't. So it feels like I still want to pass through the current log level, the current requested log level, and then take an action based on that. But what we currently have, I don't think, is allowing that. So to allow my head to rethink that, I'm going to click on what Patrick has sent me in a gist. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it onto the stream so that folks can see it, which is here. And in here, what Patrick's got is a new my border class where the border is if the renderer is requesting different parts of the border, then based on the fancy pattern matching switch that's happening there, it will return for the different sections top left, bottom, and bottom left. Top left, bottom left. And then the default, if none of those match, is an empty string. Okay, I can see how that would work. Matthias is saying, if you have iCake log in default implementation, you can use the exact same code. If you inject the iCake log in Spectre implementation, then you've got a property you can check. If you have implementation, exact same code. If you inject iCake log in Spectre implementation, then you've got a property you can check. But I thought Patrick suggested that we don't want to have the log there because we're writing to the console. Or did I miss that? Or was that not? So just, okay. Okay, so let me see if I've understood then, because that's what was going through my head. Okay. So, what we're suggesting then is up in our, or down in our here, well, that's what I was trying to do, but then I was getting myself all confused. I think. So what we've got in the implementation now is we're looking at the verbosity level that's been passed in. But what I'm trying to, in my head, on the fly, whilst trying to talk, is trying to figure out what that is. So what I mean by that is, here, am I doing log.verbosity, or am I saying verbosity dot normal, i.e. is it the requested verbosity level for the thing that I'm trying to write, or is it the current verbosity of the requested overall cake? So if it is log.verbosity, so we're all on the same page then. But when we wrote this, it was requesting information. Right? So this is the part that, okay, so let's follow this through then. So we previously, this was writing at the verb information level, right? No, I wrote information, but I wrote information there because previously, so let me make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, because previously this was writing log.information, and information is the normal verbosity, correct? But there was at least one other instance where it was writing with verbose. So that was specifically only writing out that skipped task if it was verbose level. So there's more work. It's not just a normality check. It's not just a check against whether it's less than normal. It's if its verbosity is diagnostic or verbose, then we also need to write out the skip task one. Either that, or I'm getting myself all sorts of wrapped up in knots here. That's one way of doing it, yes. Okay, we're on the same page then. So what I was, my concern was valid then, is what I'm hearing. Okay, so we have log verbosity being passed in here. Happy days. So let me borrow this. And that was that one. That was that one. That was that one. And then this one is the skip task. So this is write skip step. And this one won't need a verbosity. We'll just leave it as write skip step, I think. So in here, in our implementation, we have a void write skip step string name. Okay. And then in our implementation, we will have something very similar to this. Console here. But then, okay, but next thing I don't fully understand. There'll be a lot of that. But if I do diagnostic verbosity, diagnostic, right? And let's look at the output. Okay, so if we scroll up, no, it doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't render it differently. Okay, fine. Okay. So in here, where did I get to? That was, I thought I copied and pasted. Oh, I copied the whole thing. So that's okay. So we would skipped. So that suggests then that we do want to pass that in. So let's go back over here and say verbosity. Okay. Right skipped. And then right skipped step. So if verbosity is less than verbose, return. Fine. Well, so that's the point that you're making there, Patrick, was the one that I was worried about, as in they are printed in grey, but in here they're not. This part here is the same as what's here. So I don't think there is. So but I don't think we do. So this is a verbose log message, yes. But this here is the task header. And we don't see that in the output at all unless we're using diagnostic verbosity. So if I go back to information, fine. No, so I understand that different log levels have different colors. That part I understand. But follow what I'm saying here. So before we had the skipped element in here, and now we're not seeing it because we've got verbosity normal. If I turn that back on as diagnostic, we will see the skipped output, but it's rendered with the same color as the other tasks at that point. So if I'm not seeing a difference between not skipped and skipped. That's the same color. No, this is me running cake. This is not me running the my version of cake, that is cake today. That .NET Cake is the installed .NET Global tool. It's not the one that I'm currently writing with, or it's not the one I'm currently modifying. This is today's cake, so there is no difference. But verbose does, because this is an example of a verbose output here in this line here. This is grey, whereas this one is white. So I think we're on the same page, right? So the blue one, for context, the blue PowerShell window is cake today, and this one from Visual Studio is the live one, the one that we're messing around with. I think we're all on the same page. So over here, we're returning, if it's less than verbosity verbose, we return and we don't output the right line. If it's less than verbosity normal, we return again early, we don't do anything. We're going to come back to our custom borders maybe. And I need to go to this implementation to do implementation of this dude. So let's borrow him and put them on there. That can go back over there. And check here is going to be the same. So we put that in there, and then we want another panel that is similar. So it feels like there's a little bit of code sharing there that we could maybe do something with. Okay. Let's try this out. And if this works, then I might play with a custom border to see if we can get that working. Code sharing or code duplication is fine. Smiley face from Patrick. Is shared base panel class based on Patrick's fist or based on Patrick's gist. I think that works too. Although fist sounds good. Okay, no, build failed. Why did the build fail? No argument corresponds to the corresponding. Oh, that's the right skip step. So that needs to be log verbosity there. Okay, so let's spin this up again. Let's get rid of this one. We're done with that. 28 minutes left before I need to take the dog for a walk. Let's see how far we get. See what we get. So currently, I forget what the verbosity level is currently set on this one, but we'll find out in a second. It's on quiet. If she pees on the carpet or poos on the carpet, I will blame you, Patrick. That's all I'm saying. So currently, the verbosity of this thing is set to quiet. So this is doing exactly what it was doing before. So if we go back over to here and we say verbosity quiet. So again, we'll do a side-by-side comparison between current cake and our implementation of cake. And I think this looks very similar. So we just get the task output. Cool. Okay, so that looks good. So let's go back into our settings of this thing and let's put this back to diagnostic so we can do a side-by-side. I'm not sure if I like this new UI for debug settings. I'm just going to say it. I'm not sure if I like it. So let's do a side-by-side again, and let's do diagnostic. What do we see in the output? Okay. See lots of stuff. So we saw the back up. We saw the setup. Saw the not skipped. Saw the skipped. We saw the default and the teardown. That's all looking quite good. Matthias, couldn't skip task be default in summary if opt-in to Spectre.Console and just have config to opt in and out of Spectre.Console? Couldn't skip task be opt-in to Spectre.Console and just have config to opt in and out of Spectre? As in the default value of the configuration. I don't see what. So we don't just have one config. Okay, hold on. No skip. We don't. We didn't skip. So I thought about it, but in my head, or where this started out, was that some folks might not want, or because it's never come up before until now, so folks might be happy that they don't see the skip reason in the output. I personally feel it's of value, but some people might not want this to be here. So I was leaving it with a default being off so that it's not causing any quote-unquote regression. So it was an opt-in to get it to go here. Now there's an implicit opt-in to using Spectre.Console when you say you want the summary, the skip reason in the summary, because that's how we're rendering it. But I could also see that folks want to have this new output, but without the skip summary. So again, in my head, there's two. Yes, no, you're right. It still needs. So the way that it's currently written, yes, we've said that this skip reason will only be visible if you are using or opting in to show the summary. Yes, so there's an implicit usage of the Spectre.Console if you want to see the skip reason. Yes. But originally, I hadn't thought about doing all of this stuff up here in Spectre.Console. It was only going to be the summary. So now that we've added in this into the mix, I could see folks wanting this, but not the skip reason. Correct. Well, we only show it if there is a reason and there is a skip task. Otherwise, it's just a formatted table with two columns. I mean, I'm not phased. This feels like a small implementation detail, so I'm going to shelve that part of the conversation, and I'm going to say that I'm going to play around with the fancy border just to see what it does. So going back over here to where we were doing the report printer, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm just going to create a class within the class. I am evil. Don't do this because people shout at you. But let's just put, let's just call this one double border. And I'm going to say that that wants to be an equals rather than that. And then I'm going to do another one, which is single border. And then over here, I'm going to say that my border for the skipped step, so if we go back to here, skipped was a double border. So this was going to be border equals new border. New double border. I think. So for now, that's my skipped one. The life cycle step was the single. So this is going to be new single border. And then the step here was the double border. Double border. Double border. Single border. Okay, I'm going to play that out. Fancy border. Add public static. Add public static border shared get equals my new border to the border class as well. Poor man's singleton. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm running it now. So let's let that finish out. Is anybody else getting lots of follows on Mastodon now that Twitter has been taken over? I've had a few follows of late that I wasn't expecting, let's put it that way. But it seems like there's a migration happening. Is this running? Or is it just thinking? Doing. Don't have any breakpoints. No, there it goes. It does. But at this point, I'm not entirely sure what I'm expecting to see, but I'll put them up side by side again. Ooh, okay. So teardown now looks like ... which you had before. Default looks like oh, it's getting close now. Not skipped. Setup. Okay. So what do we feel about this going all the way over to the end of the console output and our table stopping here? Would we want those to match up? Although they didn't match before, but it was the other way. I think I'm okay with that. But I'll wait for thoughts on... Patrick's vote is to remove the expand in favour of what is a fixed width that we had before. So I don't know how many this is. 4, 5, 10. Would this be about 40 or so? We can certainly do that. Let's close you down again, and let's do the micro optimization that let's do the micro optimization that off the page. So we wanted to add public static. Oh no, that's in the class, sorry. Public static shared. No, public static. Get there. Double border. Shared. Get. Or lost my ability to type. Equal. Double border. To here. Shared rather than doing before. This is just got single or a double? That was a double. Double border. Shared. Single border. Shared. Dot shared. Okay, cool. Might look strange in CI with expand. That's a valid point. We capped the width there to 80 characters, but nothing stops people setting it to int.max value. I can add support for max width in Spectre.Console. Okay. Min width divided by max width. And ANSI console.profile.width equals int.max factor in your cake script, and see your computer reboot. Okay, so if I were to go to our panel, so currently expand equals true. So is that just, is there a width property on the panel then, without looking at the docs? Or how would I think you did mention that earlier in chat, but I think it's scrolled off. Let's see if it's in the... Oh, I see. Okay. So if I were to go back to here then, so it's either it either pads out for the, well, we could add padding, could we? What application did you close when you didn't mean to, Corey? Oh, no. Chrome doesn't do that. Chrome asks you to hold on to the command Q before it closes it. It doesn't do it straight away. So you must have been using a different browser other than Chrome. Yeah, but you must have held on to it. You must have really meant it. You see, there you go. That explains it. Okay, so I think, so going back to what Matthias said there, or just expand the table to match. The problem there being what happens in CI, because it might look a bit strange. So I think I'm erring on the side of that. But if we can't control the width currently, I think I'm happier with it being expanded, or we add some padding, but then as Patrick pointed out, the padding would be different for each panel based on however many characters are included in the name that's passed in. So I'm inclined to leave the expand on just now. I'm going to put that back on. Okay. So what's left then? What have we still got to do? Well, there's a setting for it, even better. I've just written a panel now. What you want? You want me to change it? So what are we suggesting now then? A one-column table. I can fix the width of a one-column table is what we're saying. So if I go back to where we did the right, then what we did here was, I forget what we did now there in terms of, oh, and should I have been using ANSI console.write when I was here, or console.write when I rendered the panel? I should have been using the, I'm confused there. I'll wait for a response on that one before I make a change. So I should be using underscore console here as well. Rather than at the static ANSI console. Okay. So if I go back up here then, what did we do when we were setting up the columns? We padded the right hand one. So what's better then? So Spectre.Console people, is it better to use a panel, or is it better, because I've just created a custom border and everything, is it better to have a table or my panels? It could be the same width as summary, maybe a shared constant. Confuse we will. I'll wait for a response on what I'm doing before I go too much further. Because can I control the overall width of the table? I am coding, or I'm trying to. I'm also trying to keep the conversation going at the same time. And that's where my head hurts sometimes. Because the width of the table for the summary table isn't fixed in the sense that it can either be a 2-column table or a 3-column table. And depending on the message that's put into there, it could be quite wide. And we saw that when the message was longer. So Patrick's saying table equals new table, ASCII border, table.width is 30, table.add hello world, add to the right table. But Matthias is asking, does it have a set width? So he's saying that it does. So the table width is set. So regardless of what columns I put in there, the table width would be fixed at 30. Is that what I'm hearing? I think that's what I'm hearing. So if that's the case, then I would be able to go up to here and say table.width. So what's a good number? Because 30 is not enough. So would that be, let's start at 100 and we can go from there. Right? So then I want another table for my panel, which was down here then. Where's my panel? Panel is here. And then my border, can that border be the same border that I just created then? Because it doesn't care. So this could be double border.shared then. I'm going to throw it in there and just wing it. And then we want table dot add column with name, and then we want, okay, sounds good. Then we want underscore console dot write table. New border doesn't like that, but that's because it's a different border. It's not a box border. So Patrick's going to send me a gist on Slack for that. Okay. So then let's copy this one, and this one's going to be my single border. And this might take me right up to the close of play. Single border is going to be there. And then copy this one, and this double border. Or copy the other one. Thank you very much, Patrick. This one here, it is, oh, it's similar. Okay, so let's scroll down to my fake class down here, and it's not a copy. I don't know if you want to put that link into Twitch as well, just in case folks want to see it as well. So it's a table border part rather than what was there before, and we this one here, top bottom. So this is my double. That there wants to have it equals. That there wants to have, and this is what table border rather than a box border. That's there. How it is. Okay. And then this wants to be a table border as well. And that one table border part. And then one paste. And then this is single border. Okay. Let's see what that does. And I've just seen Mateus's 42. I went with 100, so let's see what it does. And this, if this works, this feels like a natural stopping point. So there's some tidy up work there with regard to shared constant for that table width. There's some tidy up work for the setting, whether we have one setting, whether we have two, whether it's if you opt into one, you get the other one for free. There's some work there. So let's see what this looks like. Ooh, quite like it. So we've got our single border set up. So let's put this over here and bring in the old one. So we have our single border setup. We have our double border not skipped. Oh, we need some spacing though. We've lost some spacing. I took that out. That was me. Let's fix that before we do anything else. I lost that when we did switch over. So in here we want console.writeLine. Just so we can do side by side. That one and then that one. String.empty instead of dash dash make analyzer happy. Where do I have the dash at? Okay. So okay, so that part. Okay, well that looks a bit better. So in terms of doing a side by side comparison, that looks better. But so let's just make sure it looks eyeballs quite good. I like it. Double skipped default tear down, and then the table. Is that some padding on the table that's making that slightly wider than? Seems to be 2 extra characters there. I wonder where those 2 extra characters are coming. But before we sign off, let's try that so we don't lose it. So that was table dot top. No. Oh, padding top, sorry. No, I'm obviously. Is it on the table itself? Table dot. No. I'm a bit lost. Okay, perfect. So for now, I'm going to leave that as that. Let's just run it one more time then. So again, there's a bit of a recap because it's coming up to the close of play today. What we've worked on today is further integration of Spectre.Console into the Cake report printer. So last week's stream was very much just about getting the summary using Spectre.Console, and we added in an additional column for the skip reason. But based on some conversation outside of the stream, we have extended it to use Spectre.Console for the step information here. So if it's a life cycle step, it's got a single border. If it's a step, it's got a double border. We took into consideration the verbosity levels of all of these things as well. So if it's less than a normal verbosity, there's no output from the table headers or from the step headers. So it's shaping up quite nicely, I think. I like it. So in terms of what's left, there's a little bit of tidy up work with regard to sharing a constant between the tables that's used for the headers here, as well as the table that's used on the summary here. There's some tidy up work in terms of the configuration setting that we use to either show the summary and or opt in to Spectre.Console or vice versa. There's a little bit of work to do there. But for now, I'm going to say that that's me pretty much done. Just a couple of comments to go through. It's fine, maybe a dash and a equals characters that don't have spacing between them, like summary. Oh, maybe. You can always wrap the table in a padder as well. Okay, we can maybe come back to that. New padder table pad top 1. Okay, let's quickly do that part. Try it out. So let's do that on the main step. So we're doing a new write of new padder table dot pad top 1. Okay, let's give that a try. So that's on the right step. So there's a couple of those. Oh, I've still got my right line, so there'll be 2. It'll be double padded if it works. So let's see what that does. Come on. Oh, so I can sign off for the night. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so it did something weird there. So it did have the double line at the top, but it seems to have introduced a line underneath as well. I see. Just need to adjust the padding, so we'd actually have to spell it out. So, okay, so let's just finish this off then. So this would be, is there a single padding then? There is. So which way around does it go? It's left, top. So left is 0, top is 1, 0, 0. I think that's what you're getting at. Let's run that one more time. A lot of similar codes, so we could probably have a common method that takes a border as part. Yeah, okay, yes. So there's some general refactoring, yes. So that would come out hopefully once I get the PR up. We could have a discussion about how we want to reshape it. From a functional standpoint, though, from a purely let's get it working, I think this is close. So I think I've already got 2 work in progress commits. This will be a 3rd work in progress commit. Those need to be squashed down, etc. And I've got 2 other PRs that I want to get in. So that was the question, Matthias. So when do you foresee, and with Patrick as well, when do you foresee the next version of Cake shipping? Because I've got, like I say, I've got at least 3 things I would like to get in before the next version. I just need to finish them off. I'm getting close with this one, at least to get it to a point that we can put PR up and have a look at it. Okay, so that seemed to have worked. So I've got my line at the top, no line in the bottom. Okay, cool. I like that. I think this is shaping up rather quite nicely. In 2 hours, November the 8th. I've got a week. I'll see. There's at least one PR where I want to adjust the settings that are available in the IL merge settings class, because having now used the IL merge tool, there's a lot of additional options that are not currently in the Cake aliases for them. So I've got that one. I want to refactor some of the chocolatey aliases because we've added some new options onto the latest version of chocolatey. So I want to bring those into line. And then there's this one, which is to have this mainly the summary output, including the skip reason. But I like having all this other stuff in here as well. So yeah, I would be this is going to bug me. I'm going to have to find out why those 2 extra characters there, but we'll figure that out. But for now, what I'm going to do is I am going to I'm going to create a commit here, which is just work in progress 3. And I'm going to commit that, and I'm going to push it up so that it's not on my machine. Git push origin. Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in tonight. It has been a lot of fun again. I hope this has been useful. I've enjoyed it. And hopefully, all going well, should be back next week with more stuff. So for now, I'm going to say that's it. But I hope you all have a good remainder of your evening and enjoy the rest of your week. And I will talk to you on the Tinternets. Bye bye.